Yes, Madam Mayor.
Same question. What is your take on the presentation that Madam just
I
made?
concur with the findings of the engineers. They've done
You're a toxicologist, is that correct?
Correct. I'm a toxicologist. I received my master's in public health, Master's of Science in Public Health from the University of South Florida, as well as a doctorate in environmental and occupational health from the University of South Florida, and have been a public health officer for the state of Florida and answered these type of questions for the Department of Health for many years. I do not currently speak for the Department of Health at this point, though. One thing to kind of clarify something that was going on earlier, the question about fish, and I appreciate the engineering approach of just stop exposure. The reason that we often find ourselves prohibiting consumption of fish from local waters, I used to actually oversee that program for the Florida Department of Health, and we would issue the health advisories for fishing in conjunction with the Game and Freshwater Fish Commission or Department of Environmental Protection, depending on who did the testing. It's usually because of mercury from the general environment that accumulates in the fish, or pesticides that accumulate in the fish. That hasn't been tested here, as far as I know, and is not an issue at hand. But whenever you get fish anywhere in coastal waters or local waters, that's usually the reason. We've never had a prohibition or banning of fish consumption due to aluminum in the state.
In terms of environment, repeating again, one of our residents talking about the fish swimming funny lately.
Well, there are many reasons that fish can
Would they
have
consume the
behavioral-
part of that aluminum, and how much do they have to consume in order for them to be affected?
That has not been determined, and there are many aspects to the consumption, the absorption, the retention, and what we call the kinetics, how that material can move in the body. We do know a lot about how aluminum is absorbed in the gut, and typically it's less than 1%. So one of the, there's many theories and many factors that can affect that with an individual with other diseases or other existing problems. But if we had sufficient data over the past 50 years to support acute or chronic health levels of exposure to aluminum, they would have been published. But you can't you have to use a lot of caution to take studies that have found an association, a statistical link, or observations. Many of these reports are case studies. 1 or 2 people here, 5 or 10 people here, and they're looking at the ill individuals. They're not looking at the whole population. These are scoping studies. These are preliminary findings, and it takes a lot of study to see if that association, that initial link, really plays out to be a causal association, and we often find that it's not.
Okay. Any questions? Vice Mayor Galvin, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Questions first for the person who's paying your bill tonight. I'm sorry, city. Come on down.
What's the name of the show again? Coming down?
Come on.
Let's make a deal.
Let's make a deal.
Make a deal.
She's like, what's behind door number 1 or door number 2? Why did you give this fill to the owners of Biscayne Landing? Did you sell it to them?
Our subcontractor sold them the fill.
Why did you sell them the fill and not get rid of it on your own?
Our subcontractor went through the process of identifying potential locations to sell the fill to. The fill has excellent structural qualities. In fact, the FDOT is in the process of approving the use of this material to be used as embankments under highways. However, I can't speak as to why they made a deal with Alita Partners in particular. They went through that process and selected.
Okay, thank you. My next question is for somebody from Alita Partners. Who's the... Mr. Tillman.
Herb Tillman once again. Yes, sir.
Hi.
How you doing?
the contract that we have with you calls specifically for clean fill, yet you brought in this fill. Why did you do that, and was there an economic savings to you to have done it?
Number one, there was no economic savings. It was the only fill available in that kind of quantity in the Tri-County area. At the time we made the deal to acquire this fill, the Fort Lauderdale Airport runway project was in full gear and was consuming all of the available fill in Dade County, Broward County, and the southern half of Palm Beach. So this was the only location where we could acquire this quantity of fill sufficient to come to Biscayne Landing. As we found out, most of it was going right past us, going to Lauderdale Airport, so we made a better deal with the subcontractor to drop it off at a shorter distance and return for more fill. As to how we came about this particular fill, and understanding now something we did not understand when we acquired it, that it does contain some levels of aluminum that exceed the cleanup target levels. The time we acquired the fill, before we even signed the deal, before we loaded the first truck with it, we approached Durham. Durham was very familiar with the site because they had approved the use of this mixing material, this grout mixture, for subterranean use. And we approached Durham and offered to not only to ask for their approval, but offer to characterize the fill, to perform testing that is unusual and in excess of any other testing that's normally performed when you acquire clean fill for lake fill. This was considered at that time by Durham, as well as all the other regulatory authorities, clean fill in its definition as followed in Chapter 24 as compared to clean concrete. It had the same components. It had native limestone at somewhere around 70% concentration, and it had a grout admixture, which is basically what we use to build concrete. We use aggregate, which is limestone, and we use Portland cement and sand to form a grout slurry. So Durham has been using this type of material for lake fill for at least 40 some odd years, and it's been approved all over the county. So they were very comfortable with the material at that time without need for further characterization. Once we got written approval from Durham, we started bringing the material to the site. It had an unusual color to it due to the slag cement and how it reacted with the atmosphere. When it's first mined, it appeared to be a bit greenish, but all concrete in its wet form before it cures has a green tint. Hence the reference in the construction industry, don't step on that concrete yet, it's still green. Okay, this was a little more pronounced. The site manager took exception to the color. A pure visual observation, he concluded something must be wrong because it's a different color. At the point in time when we had acquired about 194,000 yards, and this wasn't just a mark on the wall, this is how fast we had moved it to the site, the site manager lodged his complaint with Durham. Durham told us, okay, let's see the MSDS sheets that tell us what's in this material and give a little stronger look at it. Maybe we're missing something here. And in the meantime, they issued the rescinding letter of May 31st that told us don't take any more of that fill on site until we have the opportunity to test it, i.e. characterize it. Okay? We stopped at that time and have not taken one load of that material on site since that May 31st letter. Durham performed their test. We performed additional tests. We alerted the contractor who was manufacturing this material. It's basically a proprietary mixture that he uses for waterproofing a basement. He's digging a 30-foot basement right next to the Miami River. For goodness sake, we never would have been able to do that without this type of technique. But getting on with the program, we performed side-by-side testing with Durham. We found levels of aluminum that exceeded the cleanup target levels, as did Durham. We worked with them. Now remember, we've been working with them at this point for approximately 5.5 months in staying within their approval oversight. When they found a problem, we stopped. We alerted the contractor. We side-by-side performed tests with them. We worked with them on alternative uses, none of which really made a lot of sense at that time, so then they recommended, and we followed, that we have something here that is unusual. The normal Chapter 24 standards don't really apply to this type of situation. So the approach that Durham recommended and we followed was that we put it before the Environmental Quality Control Board, who is made up of a group of scientists. This is their life, if you will. It's 5 of them. And what they do is they judge gray area calls. And you hardly ever get them to judge in your favor if you don't have the staff approval from Durham. We had the staff approval from Durham, a recommendation, if you will, that this, even though it does exceed the cleanup target levels for aluminum, and the fact that aluminum is the only element, when they tested for 90 other elements, aluminum was the only element of concern. Durham staff recommended approval. We acquired the approval from the Environmental Quality Control Board. Even then, we understood that the city was not comfortable with even the Environmental Quality Control Board's approval of that material for use as lake fill. I stood right here before you 4 weeks ago and agreed, okay, you're not comfortable with it, we all are, but we'll afford you the opportunity to bring in your third-party consultant, test it again, opine on the previous tests. We're willing to do that and work with you on this, just like we always have. You have the report before you, and if there's any other questions I can answer for you about how we got from there to here, please ask.
Did you say you brought 194,000 yards of this fill on site in total?
From the beginning of March till the May 31st letter, yes, sir.
Of that 194,000 yards, how much of it has not been dumped into a lake?
194,000 yards.
How much would it cost you to remove that 194,000 yards of fill from the site if we were to just say, look, we've had enough of this, just take it and go and come back with clean fill?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't, depends on where we'd have to take it to. I haven't calculated that part of it. The trucking itself, I don't know, would be in the millions. But there's a tipping fee that would be charged if we had to take it to a dump. I don't know what that number is, or, you know, the numbers may be out there.
Is that the same type of dumping and tipping fee that the persons that you bought the fill from would have had to pay to get rid of it?
Knowing what they know now and going through that measure since we stopped taking it at our site and understanding what they know about the perception of taking it to other sites, they've been paying those fees to take it to a landfill, and the contractor would have to speak as to where and how much and all that sort of thing. We haven't experienced that yet ourselves.
How much did you pay to buy this fill from the seller?
We were in the neighborhood of about $1.7 million for the 194,000 yards.
Well, then they certainly made some money by selling it to us as opposed to getting rid of it on their own. They sold it for 1.7 instead of having to pay millions to dump it, sounds like.
Yeah, and the comparative analysis at that time was they were taking it to the Fort Lauderdale airport. So they made some money by short stopping it, if you will, and not paying for that other 25 or so miles each way in trucking. And turned out they were the contractor at the airport.
Last couple of questions. I don't see Michael Swerdlow in the room tonight. I never met Michael Tillman, but I had a phone conversation with both Michaels this week. Is Michael Tillman in the room?
He is.
Mr. Tillman, may I ask a question of you?
Council.
Nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you.
Mr. Swerdlow expressed concern to me in a phone call this week that city management was asking for $1 million in return for accepting this fill as is to stay on site. He was, a little put out perhaps, or wondering if he should pay that $1 million in return for the ability to leave the fill on site. Am I accurate in my understanding of the conversation the three of us had on the phone?
In terms of exploring options for how to go forward, I think there's many options that everyone's been looking at.
has the city of North Miami requested $1 million from Olita Partners or any representative of LaFrac to keep the fill on site?
There have been discussions about whether this system that's currently in place for the water remediation, the groundwater remediation, would be taxed, and if so, whether
Can you
there
please
should
speak
be.
louder? I have
Sure.
difficulty understanding you.
There have been discussions about the groundwater remediation system and whether the fill in question would necessarily tax that system, and if so, would there necessarily need to be some kind of a fee imposed for that?
And was that fee that Mr. Swerdlow and discussed on the phone with you and I $1 million?
The fee has not been determined or finalized.
All right,
I think
I'm
it's
gonna
just a
be straight
discussion.
up. When we were taught, the three of us were on the phone, did Mr. Swerdlow or Mr. Swerdlow not say that he had been asked to pay $1 million to the city in order to leave the fill on site?
At that point in time, it was indicative of $1 million idea.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tillman. Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
$1 million to keep the fill there, in my opinion, sort of taints everything that's here tonight. Are you asking for $1 million from the developer to leave the fill on site?
I am asking the developer, if this council elects to leave that field on site, I am asking the developer in the neighborhood of $1 million. They brought approximately 200 square yards at $5. That's where I came up with the $1 million, because they're going to be taxing our system. And our system was designed for ammonia, and although if this council elects to do that, they're going to be using my system, and I want the developer to pay for that, because the system has another element.
See,
To go more
I'm
forward.
worried that it now becomes a financial exchange and not something that puts the health and safety and welfare above everything else. If it's easier for the developers financially to leave it there and just pay us $1 million rather than the millions it might take to get it off site, if Durham has already approved this, I don't know where we would get off asking for $1 million. And that's something that you should be conveying to your members of council. I don't know if you've mentioned that to everybody else before, but it certainly was never conveyed to me. And if not for a chance phone call from Mr. Swerdlow and Mr. Tillman, I wouldn't know you were having that negotiation.
Councilman, I did have that conversation with you, and I did have it with each council.
About $1
member,
million exchange?
that I would be taxing them. I would be approaching
You
with a
never
resolution.
once mentioned to me in any conversation that you were going to be asking for $1 million from the developer to leave that fill on site. I'll be straight up with you. You never
Mr.
once
Galvin,
said that
Mr.
to me.
Galvin,
Well,
I
I
was
am
in a meeting,
asking-
excuse me, city manager. I was in a meeting this afternoon with Mr. Swedlow, the city manager, Mr. Tillman Square, both of them, and the issue came up. And I heard the city manager mentioning exactly what he just told you. I don't think it's a matter. My impression is exactly what you said, and they're here, they can attest to that. I asked them, does it mean that they just want to give us $1 million regardless of the health of the citizen of the city, and for us to close our eyes and let it go? But when the city manager reiterate to them and to me and to myself as well that the site was designed for ammonium, and that if the dais, and he did specifically, that I can attest to that, and they were here during the discussion this afternoon, and what he just said to Mr. Galvin was exactly what he told you during the meeting this afternoon. Wasn't it right? Or is it just asking for $1 million just to ask for $1 million? Because the way it sounds, the way that Mr. Galvin made it sound, it's like we're doing some under the table, the city manager is doing under the table deal regardless of the citizens' health. When that was not the case. He did reiterate 2 or 3 times this afternoon why it was.
See, but I totally
So-
believe you. I know they said it to you then, I guess, but it was never said to me. I'm tired
Through
of
the
learning.
mayor,
I'm
let me-
I'm
through the
tired,
mayor,
Mr.
Councilman,
Manager,
can I-
I'm real quick,
Sure.
because you never mentioned that to me. You never, ever did. So please, let's not,
Yes.
even if you did with other council members, you didn't to me. Again, I continue to find out city policy via everybody else but you. We have spoken several times, including today. Never once did you mention to me that there was $1 million being negotiated or anywhere near that sum being negotiated.
No, he
So-
did mention if we decide.
Right.
He said if
but-
we decide.
but
It,
see,
was,
that's what's-
it was not a negotiation, and I don't think that thing went through since I had to leave for a meeting. But Mr. Swedlow have asked for a meeting with myself, and I believe he met with other council members as well.
He met with.
He met with you
Yes,
as well?
may I
That's when-
apologize to the councilman. He is correct. I met with you all. I did not meet with him. You're correct. I did not meet with you. However, in my meeting with Michael Swerdlow, he told me that he had informed you of it. So you are correct. I did not bring it to you, but he informed me that he had brought it to you. But it was nothing to present to this council because this council hasn't made a decision. But you are correct. I did not bring it to you.
So you can understand
there
why
was-
I'm-
I understand.
And
There
mi-
was a
and Mr. S-
meeting,
and
there
Mr.
was a
S-
meeting set up. We did not get the chance to have that meeting, but I know that it was brought to your attention.
And I
Right,
don't
but
like
the-
I don't like the way Mr. Swedlow put it. I don't know if the phrasing was correct or the way. I don't know what type of conversation he had with you. I really don't like the way it sounds.
And that's the way it was conveyed to me. That's what I was trying my best to do, knowing that Mr. Tillman wasn't the one who said it, and he wasn't the one who expressed the concern. Mr. Swerdlow said to me, the manager's asking for $1 million for me to leave this fill here. Should I pay it? That was his question to me.
Sure. And
And,
I mean,
and that's what came across very poorly to me, that it seemed to me at that moment then that we were going to just pay him, they were going to quietly pay $1 million because nobody had told me about it. It's not been it's not been in any of this information. It's not been discussed publicly. They were just going to quietly pay us $1 million and this would be forgotten about. And that's my concern.
Well, too bad. It's gonna
Not
be
in
more
this
than $1
diocese.
million.
that's all the
And
questions.
and
Not in this government.
No,
Go ahead.
and this afternoon I had a meeting with Mr. Swedlow, you and Mr. Mr. Tillman, and when we come up with that money, and I did ask you where that $1 million is come from, and you said based on some
how many yards?
assessment and
$5 per 200
exactly.
square
And the
yards.
question was why $1 million is because, and we said that them, and by approving the variance and to keep the soil on site, and since they're going to be using our groundwater remediation, maybe they will have to pay a fee, and it's up to the council to decide whether or not we're going to ask them to remove the soil or using our groundwater remediation to clean it up, and it's up to us. That's why I was having an argument with Mr. Swedlow. Said, no, I want to pay 200,000. I want to pay 300,000. That's when I said it's not about money. It's we really need to sit down and see exactly what the report said from them, from the RER, and from the quality board to know exactly the level of aluminum can or system clean up the soil, and can we allow and the 194 cubic yard to stay on site. That's been when we were talking about money. I think you bring it up by asking them to pay $5 for that, and you said if the council want that or not, and that's why the money been brought to us,
I witnessed to that.
and
I
I
was
told
there,
you
said the same
we
thing.
cannot discuss with them about whether or not and they need to pay, and this need to be brought to council, and we're gonna decide what we're gonna do with it. And I think it's like a verbal conversation, and we the one that gotta decide whether or not what we're gonna do.
Don't we?
When I say we, the council,
We have a motion on the floor.
we haven't a
I
motion
haven't-
yet. We are
I haven't got to
discussing
say
on.
anything yet. I have several questions also.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to speak as well, if I might.
Can we finish with our
Can we
conversation?
finish
No,
with
we-
our
we-
conversation, then we can
Yeah.
open for you again? You came late, Mr. Woolen.
May I?
The dais is having a discussion. Let us
When you all
finish.
are done, I just
and then
wanted
you
that
will be able to
opportunity
speak.
before you made a motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Okay, I had a few questions. First, I met with Mr. Swerdlow and the two Mr. Tillmans yesterday afternoon. So, first, I
With the
want to...
manager?
You too, yes, along with Mr. Johnson. We were not talking about $1 million back then. This is the first I've heard of it. However, I did bring up the issue that I'm concerned with the report. I'm concerned with Durham's report from the September 14th meeting, and also our consultant who states that we have an active groundwater remediation system, which, if properly functioned, will prevent off-site migration of any potential groundwater. And I took exception to that because, number one, we have a remediation system that is not completely in place. It was put there strictly for extracting the ammonia from our system, not aluminum. And in speaking to the consultants several weeks ago, we don't know, without testing it, whether this extraction system will extract the aluminum. And I think that should be tested. And I said that I would like a statement from our engineer, CH2M Hill, that, you know, we're saying their system is going to work and take this aluminum out, but it wasn't designed for that. And we can't just make all these blanket statements that, oh, since it's taking in the water, it's going to take out the aluminum, because the aluminum, the ammonia, they're designed, they're different strengths, levels, weights, and so maybe you can answer that question.
Okay. First, Mrs. Councilwoman, I'm not an expert on that particular extraction system, but from what I understand, it's not specific. Aline can probably give you more information than I can. But what I understand is that it creates a groundwater divide so that that water won't migrate from the site. Is that correct? Okay.
And we're in certain phases, so we haven't even installed all of our injection wells.
Alim Ghani, Public Works Director. Just two things, and I see Eddie Smith is the engineer of record for the groundwater system, and I'll defer it to him. But just 2 points of clarification. In the Environmental Quality Assurance Board's decision, if you look at the decision and the descending, the descending experience that was founded by Mr. Majorca, what he said is that since there is a groundwater remediation system in place, and with the potential of aluminum leaching into the groundwater system, there is a groundwater system which is going to intercept the potential migration, okay? And again, as the consultant said, the other point she was making is the SPLP test is an actual analysis done on the leach on material that leaches out. So there's no exact chemistry on over what period of time this leaching is going to take place and how long it's going to take place. And this is the reason why I think what I'm trying to tie into here is the potential for groundwater migration off-site. And with the interception wells, which is on the southeast perimeter of the site, is going to intercept the system. Now it's all groundwater, whether it's contaminated with ammonia, whether it's contaminated with aluminum, just to quantify that statement. And I'll ask Eddie to come up and reiterate anything on that.
I would like a statement from our engineers who are extracting the water, because we're placing a burden on them, and that is something that I did bring up yesterday with Mr. Swerdlow, is that if we had to change the system or do some further testing, that they would be responsible, or should be responsible, for any modification to the injection system.
Hi, my name is Eduardo Smith. I'm Vice President with SCS Engineers and the engineer of record on the groundwater remediation system. And you're correct that the entire system hasn't been installed. About half of it has been installed, and we've been in a pilot testing process that was completed about a week ago. What the system does is it intercepts groundwater, as Alim mentioned, currently on the southern and the southeastern property boundaries before groundwater is able to enter the trailer park to the south and the wetlands to the east. It's the system intercepts groundwater. So there are dissolved constituents in the groundwater. Right now, the contaminant of concern is ammonia, and in a couple of places, iron. If aluminum were to dissolve and enter that groundwater, we would also intercept it, because it's not a particle of aluminum in the groundwater that falls out. It's dissolved in the water. So the water that's pulled by the extraction wells doesn't see what is in the water. It's just water. The system that's in place doesn't have a treatment component. We take that water and we dispose of it in an injection well, which is the unique thing about this system. Had it been a system that was designed to treat a specific compound, then we would have an issue. But in this case, we do not. So that's something to take into consideration. Further, to go on the point that you made, that the entire system's not in place, the agreement through the EQCB, the Environmental Quality Control Board, was only the lakes that where the groundwater extraction system that's currently in place would intercept water. Only those lakes could be filled at this time until the second phase of the extraction system was installed. So we had to do some modeling to show that which specific lakes are essentially qualified to be filled at this time with that material.
Is somebody monitoring the lakes that we're filling to make sure that we're only filling the proper lakes?
Yes, and well, there has to be a lake fill permit is obtained through Durham, through the city as well, before they're able to be filled.
Okay.
And there is extensive groundwater testing that's done across the site.
And who's doing the monitoring of the water on the property?
We are currently doing that work.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, sorry, Eddie. All the materials presently, the contaminated materials, are stockpiled adjacent to the lakes. None of the lakes are being filled or have been filled with this material. They are all stockpiled on the site adjacent to the lakes.
But we are filling. I mean, one of the lakes is almost full.
One
so
of the lakes is
not with
almost full.
not with the city center
Not
fill.
Not with the city center material. That's correct.
But I just want to make sure it's the right
and there
lakes
is
are being filled.
monitoring on site by Durham as well as SCS engineers.
Okay, thank you. I just have a few more questions of Mr. Tillman. Are there any fish in that lake? Are there fish in our lakes?
Yeah.
Are there?
That's funny.
Okay, I just wondered because I'd be amazed. I didn't.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's any kind of fish that you would
Alligators.
find
We're
in
not eating
brackish water, tarpon and some rather stronger forms of bass and things like that. Some brim, bluegills.
Okay.
Yeah, there's turtles in there too. A ton of them.
Okay.
Turtles
I
too.
didn't know. Okay, going forward, we had a discussion, and I asked Mr. Swerdlow if you would commit to not bringing in any more of the city center fill to the property.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's two good reasons for that. Number one, we're pretty much done with it exporting from. I'm sorry, Malcolm Drilling is finished exporting it from the site. They're down to somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 or 30,000 yards. And with what we've gone through and given the timeline that we still have to undergo to acquire the permit that allows us to put it in the lake, it wouldn't make sense for us to take any more of that material on at this time. So we got two good reasons not to.
We discussed yesterday that they were still taking some of that fill and putting it down in Key Biscayne or Virginia Key, that the county was using that.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was not a true statement. The contractor's right here. He can tell you where they're taking it to because he's directly involved with it.
Can you sell your fill? I mean, I mean, we've had conversations where it's like, oh, we're losing out. Because we waited so long. Now we can't buy it, and we can't. And you were talking about yesterday, Durham testing the rest of the city dirt, and that someone else was going to buy it. Could we sell our 194,000 yards to somebody else?
No, we're not aware of another site in need of fill that
not the airport.
No, we're not aware of another site that needs a lake fill material that has a currently active groundwater remediation system. Given those facts, I don't know. I'd have to discuss that with Durham and see if they have any other suggestions
Maybe we
before I
could
could.
make some money and sell our dirt. Okay, going.
It's not. It's not.
It's not
a
ours.
soil.
Well,
It's not-
it is. It's on our land.
No.
Another question. If we keep this dirt on our property, what are we going to do to get this contained and covered so it is not blowing around?
Currently, we're using the application of water to keep the dust control down. There are other methods we're looking into. Of course, I'd want Durham's approval. We have a soils management plan that provides for dust control by use of water blasts, if you will, or water guns, and we spray it frequently, just like we do the construction roads along the site that aren't made up of this material. It's typical dust control measures.
Okay.
You done, Ms. Keys?
I believe so. I'd still like a little more comfort that our remediation system is going to help filter out this aluminum. But thank you.
Mr. Wallen, you have your 2 minutes.
No,
Councilman.
Oh, excuse me. One more
Sorry,
thing.
Councilman Bien-Aimé has to speak.
One more thing. I want to make sure that going forward also that we did speak about having an independent testing system for all future fill coming to our property. And I think it would be better if we tested it before it got dumped on our property. So I would like, I think we need to do that. We spoke about an independent lab for that.
Okay. Councilman Bien-Aimé, you have the floor.
And Madam Mayor, I have a question for our public work director. And Mr. Alim, since right now, from what I understand, and the Olita partners have an approved variance to use the soil on site.
That's correct.
Do they need a variance from the city in order to move forward? Also,
It is my understanding the approval of the material actually lies with Durham. Again, if the material is considered, with high levels of aluminum, is not a RECRA metal, so it's not a hazardous metal.
Okay.
This is based on the laws on Chapter 24, which is the environmental code of the county.
okay, but the question, since they have the variance from them, they don't need a variance from us.
No, not that I know.
But from what I remember, Mr. City Manager, you are going to come with a variance to us, to the council, and like a few weeks ago about that subject.
They are in violation of the contract. It says they must comply with all environmental laws.
Okay,
They did not, which is why they got a variance.
okay.
So I believe that although the contractor, the developer got a variance, the city should have had some say at the very beginning instead of us finding out later, waiting for Durham's report.
Okay.
So here's why we're here now.
I think one of the reasons they got an approval from them is because we all recognize that the material have a high level of aluminum. Everybody understand that. But the second part, and them and all the other agencies think the soil is not a threat to human being. That's the second part of it. And the third thing is the reason why they get the approval is because on site we have the groundwater remediation, right? Correct. In the proposal, they said we have the groundwater remediation that can clean the material, and another thing that, and they said the other thing that I think in the request is to have a stock fill management plan.
That's correct.
Do they have that in place?
That is in place currently. And there were other recommendations that Durham made, and most importantly, Councilman, you're very correct. It was only approved because of the system that's in place.
That means it's not if we did not have that groundwater remediation, they will have to remove it.
That was what Durham presented as an argument was the fact that we had an existing system that was remediating the site.
Okay.
There would be a problem.
Then we can use it to clean up the soil.
Correct. Through the water.
Okay.
And because that system is in place, that is one of the conditions that Durham presented, and that was why the EQCB board approved it, because there's a system in place.
And Madam Mayor, I don't know if you permitted that the site manager, Mr. Joe Celestin, and come up and to answer a question. And Mr. Celestin,
Yes, sir.
You on the site, you are the site manager. Are you comfortable with the groundwater system?
Well, one thing I want to make sure everybody understand. When I issued the order that the soil was not suitable, there were no groundwater remediation. Remember, this soil came on site on about January to March. Mr. Lee and the superintendent of the site drove with me to Brickell City Center because I have to inspect every site. They have like 10 different sites that I visited daily. And I went there with the superintendent. Not only that I looked at the material, but I took the specification on the slag cement that they were going to use. I spoke with the gentleman on site. He says it was a ratio of 70-30. I then determined that, based on that ratio and did some research, that the mixer was too high, and I saw what component was inside the material. So I met with the city manager before I even talked to the developer. I expressed my position to the city manager. I said, I believe that that soil is contaminated because of the makeup of the specification. And besides, chapter 24.
But, Mr. Site Manager, and we understand that, but the groundwater remediation that we have in place right now,
which came in June.
Now
we're talking about March.
I understand that,
yes.
but my question is the stormwater remediation that we have on site now.
Yes.
Can we use it to
clean up? I have one problem.
Mm-hmm.
The current well that are on the site, the design of the groundwater remediation system was designed when the stormwater fall in the current garbage on site. The liquid of what they call the leachate, the garbage source that came out of that, the shallow wells that we call the extraction system are not very deep well all the way down below. The leachate from that would be captured by those shallow well calling the extraction system, will take it to what we call the injection well, which push it to the boulder zone, which shoot it away about 3,300 feet below. That has nothing to do with our ground remediation in terms, with our groundwater in terms of contamination. However, these lakes that we're referring to are 35 to 40 feet in the water table below. Those wells, those shallow well extraction systems, are not deep enough to reach below where they're going to dump that material. Some of those wells are not 100 feet deep.
Are you telling me you contradict the report of them?
Well, I did. And in fact, when the first approval DERM gave, all I have been doing on site is fighting the approvals. The first approval was to put, and the manager is here, I had the manager on the phone with DERM. DERM approved to put the soil at 40 feet, 50 feet from the property line and no limitation on height. I called the manager, I told the manager, I have the rules. The rules say it has to be at 100 feet and 25 feet high. DERM argued with me over the phone with the manager. I demanded that we go up to FDEP because I have the manual. They came back, they issued a letter rescinding their position to the manager to follow my recommendation.
The FDP? FDP?
No, Durham.
Durham, okay,
Durham.
okay,
Durham
okay.
came back and wrote the manager a letter saying, we send it our approval to have the soil at 50 feet. We're going to follow the rules to make it 100 feet. And then we want the height to be 25 feet because before it was 50 feet above the people's home. So I have had them, this is not the first approval that Durham issued that I challenge. There's been many that I took to the manager and had them resend it to follow just a rule based on the book. So they rescinded that. And the second one, when we did that for the slag, again, they rescinded it based on the finding. My position, as I made it very clear, the extraction wells and the engineers here are not very deep into the ground. They're very shallow well. They're not like the injection well, which is 35 feet below.
That's when you're telling me the system that we have in place right now cannot clean.
I build a number of pump stations, and this is a pump station. And I know that the wells, the depth of those wells are shallow wells. They're not deep into the bottom where the lakes are. My concern is if I have a system, if we have a system, we have the Biscayne Landing, we are cleaning for the ammonia. My position as your consultant, I would not want to bring additional contaminants to clean up. And as the director of
You're talking about on top of the 194?
No.
Okay, before, okay.
And on the top of the iron and also the high level of ammonia we have on the site. I would not bring additional contaminants. And I want to tell you, even the injection well that we have right now is not set in stone that is going to do the job. We have tried 3 systems already that failed. There is a potential that the injection well may not do the job.
Okay,
so to add more contaminants to the injection well to clean up, not knowing the target or what's going to happen, it's something that I would not recommend the city to do.
Can I ask?
Okay.
Yeah,
we need to wrap up on this. It's just.
And can we, Mr. City Manager, can we call the CH2M Hill? I think they're the one taking care of. They're not here.
No, sir.
The design engineer is here. Mr. Ellis Smith designed the system.
Yeah, but
He's a partner. The contract is combined between the two.
And Alim can.
The design engineer or the engineer of record for the system, the groundwater remediation system, is Eddie Smith or SCS engineers.
Can you answer that question? And
Yes. Which question specifically?
the question is, can the groundwater remediation system that we have in place right now on the site, can it clean up the 194 cubic yards of soil and that have a high level of aluminum?
As I mentioned before, what the groundwater remediation system does, it intercepts the groundwater leaving the property. It doesn't, I think there's a notion of it filtering out some contaminants from soil or anything. As the approval was in the EQCB, and as Aleem had mentioned as well, if the aluminum happens to leach into the soil, which there's only been a laboratory test that indicates that it may or may not. If it happens to leach and reach the groundwater, then the remediation system will clean it up. The hydraulics of an extraction well, it's not a pump station that we have out there. They're extraction wells. They're slotted wells that go into the groundwater about 12 to 15 feet. Water comes up from underneath that well as well as from the sides. So you can't judge the influence of a well just simply by how deep it is. We run 3D groundwater models to simulate that groundwater extraction, and we show that we're taking water from well below the bottom of the well. This is a sensitive environment, so we control how much we pump and exactly where we want to take the water from.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Wallen, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, Frank Wolin. And I've spent a lot of time, so I'd like a little time, if you don't mind, to...
No, just a little time, Mr. Wallen. It's already 11-something. Tomorrow, I have the State of the City address. I would love to go home and look fresh.
So you have 2 minutes.
I can't speak to that. But I will tell you, I've consulted a lot of experts, chemists, people from the EPA, and environmental engineers. And I've learned some things, and I'd like to share what I have to say with the council, because it may be helpful to you in your deliberations. I learned that some of my original concerns about the aluminum in the groundwater were not as serious as I thought because of the pH issue, which you've already had explained to you. I've also learned that there are other metals which could have a cumulative effect on the environment, like magnesium and lead, which are also present in the slag. I've also learned that the testing methodology is not good. People at Durham have told me off the record that they believe the frequency of the test, the placements, the kind of test, the fact that they rarely test for metals. One chemist, another gentleman, told me that it was alarming to him. I don't understand how Biscayne Landings put the material on the site without testing it first. In the letter, which was referred to from Durham, the letter of approval, it said, quote, uncharacterized. So Durham approved material with the understanding that it wasn't going to be tested then, it would be tested later. So, you know, there's an issue here. When you have the people who are doing the dumping deciding who and where and when the testing takes place, sometimes you don't get the best information. How smart is it when you have the people who design the pump and inject system also doing the testing to see if it works properly? Is that scientifically sound? Ask Mr. Smith, who just spoke to you, what the system was designed to pump. It was designed to pump 1,500 gallons per minute. Is it pumping 1,500 gallons per minute? No, it's pumping between 740 and 800 gallons per minute. What are they going to do about it? Well, maybe they'll have to dig another injection well. How much does that cost? There are a lot of questions that you're not asking, and you need to ask them. I'm going to cut part of my comments out because I don't need to tell you things that you have already been told. But I'm concerned, and when you read the minutes of the Environmental Quality Control Board, and they say, but you know, okay, so if it's dirty, we'll just clean it up because we have the pumping system in place. We're already cleaning the groundwater. We'll just add another well. That's there in the minutes. You can read it. I'm concerned because no one is testing the sediments in the mangrove preserve in Arch Creek for metals. There is no base level on sediments. You're never going to see what happens and how, if you leave it there, it's going to affect our bay, the fish. You know, not a bad idea, Madam Mayor, test the fish, but nobody's talking about doing it. The slag has a material called silica. It's very fine glass, tiny, tiny particles, microns. It's so small. They use it as a lubricant for their digging. These microns, these tiny little pieces of glass, they become airborne and they settle in people's lungs when you breathe them, in the alveoli in your lungs. Once you breathe this dust in, it doesn't come out, it doesn't evaporate, it doesn't go away. You're going to get sick. You're going to get silicosis. You might get cancer. All right? They say they're doing air monitoring.
Isn't it what they use for breast augmentation?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. And I don't mean to make light of it. It's what causes people to get lung cancer. Okay? And it was there in the NACA, in those sheets that they talked about, which characterized the sheet which you were handed out a month ago, which told you about Hansen slag cement. If you read it and you read the risks of Hansen slag cement, it's when you inhale this material, it's there. And Mr. Celestin toured the site with me, and you know, he told me and he told you how close it was to the homes. Well, when the wind blew, the roofs of those homes were white from the material blowing off, from this silica blowing off onto those homes. So those are human beings there who are breathing it. And And do you really think they're spraying that pile every day? Well, they're not. If you stood in the Costco parking lot for a couple days, you wouldn't see it get sprayed at all. Scott, $1 million additional isn't enough. Not for the additional wells and the additional pumping and everything else. And I tell you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Manager, $25 million of liability insurance for our city for people who get sick is not enough. It should be $250 million. And really, that's if you leave it, you should up the insurance. But why? Why risk the health of the community? Mr. Bien-Aimé, you're right. It's not about money. It's about people's health. And I'm sorry you're talking about the money and you're not paying enough attention, because people out there that live around there, they're breathing this stuff. And I wouldn't want my children to be out there. It's dangerous, and you'll need to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think there's more. We have more. Oh, Madam Councilwoman, you haven't spoken. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Bien-Aimé. Anyways,
Mr. Bien-Aimé, give you the floor.
He actually asked for me. He's being very nice to me tonight, Madam Mayor. Kudos to site manager, Mr. Celestin. Trust me, I really not one of those people that would say that to you, because I know your head's already big, so I don't want to make it bigger. But truly, from seriously, thank you so much for being there, representing the city well, and make sure that your eyes, your ears, your hands and arms. Well, you know what? There are a lot of people that have
very well paid on that.
My goodness.
Keep on speaking. Go ahead.
Okay, a lot of people get paid, but they don't do the job. But he does.
But we use contract.
He's doing his job, so keep on going.
Okay.
Let's move on, madam.
Does he have a contract?
Can I keep on going?
Oh,
Fat
sorry,
one.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Gosh, why you guys so aggressive?
No.
But anyway, sorry, sorry, sir. I take all back, because my colleagues up here, I don't want them to get all that. That's too much excitement for me. Where was I? Apparently,
You were sending flowers to Mr. Celestin.
and kisses. But anyways, it's 11:20, so I can do that. It seem like we up here understand the gravity of what could have happened, but at the same time, as a professional and someone who loves schools, but sometimes school doesn't like me that much. That's why I only have a master's degree, not a PhD. But tonight I feel that I have been learning a lot through the Biscayne Landing project. But however, I'm hearing and I heard a lot of passion, a lot of politicking around Biscayne Landing. I will choose as a professional to go with the professional advice. I know that a lot of people don't feel Biscayne Landing projects should move on, or they feel that yes, there is much more than just aluminum. But at the same time, if us up here not environmentalists, we cannot make a decision upon ourselves because of what we know about in the environment. I would suggest that the council goes by the recommendation of professionals, and because they're first of all, they're not politicians, I'm assuming, or they're not just government, because I heard from different entities would not represent a specific government, and they are on record represent their company. And I personally will take their words will take your words, let me speak specifically or directly to you guys. I will take your words on the record as professional that you recommend us in telling us that whatever, for lack of better words, in the field at Biscayne Landing, it's not threatening to human life. So that's what I'm hearing tonight. So whatever my council decide, because we need to take a vote, I will support it just because that the professionals, people who actually studied and testing the field, telling me from one thing that my city manager and my city attorney knows that I am very good at is taking recommendation of people that supposedly know more better than I do. So tonight, I'm going based on you, giving you credit for what you should know and telling me that to move on. Dealing with the money, and I'm ready to make a motion to move on with the Biskin Lending project. However, not because of the money, but money should involve, because we are an institution. We are dealing with money. We're dealing with budget. We have houses to be fixed. We have roof to be fixed. We have people to put back to work. We have sidewalks. We have capital improvement as a whole. I am admitted to charge the Biskin Lending $2 million. Since $1 million was too much, Swedlow is going around crying about it. So I'm adding another $1 million. So that's my motion for tonight.
Okay.
I need a second.
Madam, before you make your motion, since we were still in discussion,
We are?
I don't believe that we should take any vote on this tonight. I don't think I am comfortable enough to go forward with this. I don't think we should rush in any type of decision, and I don't appreciate the way Mr. Swedlow expressed himself with Councilman Galvin, making us or anybody watching this doubt on our city manager, like he was trying to do some deals under the table when it was not the case. I don't think, I'm not a scientist either. I've heard a lot of people that knows, but again, am I willing to play with people's health and tomorrow to say, if only I knew better? I don't think we should take a vote. I believe that we need to table this thing and come back with it in 2 weeks in listening and make research. I don't know, city manager, it's in your hands.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I am very disappointed that it was even insinuated that without a cause. And listening to all the experts tonight, the monitoring that we have to do in the future, and one of the concerns that I have, what happens if we're monitoring for ammonia, but the aluminum is still there?
Yeah.
So I would like to go back and sit down with the developer and negotiate something that's in the best interest of this city.
Yep.
I had $1 million based upon the amount that came there.
You're so cheap.
But because I'm getting so much more information we need to consider, I like to come back with a proposal. I do agree that maybe we should listen to the experts, but there are other obligations that the city could be subjected to. And before you do that, I would like to go back and sit down with the developers and come back to you on November the 12th with some sort of settlement arrangement resolution with this oil.
So are you
Should
asking
we-
us, I'm sorry.
I'm asking you to allow us
A motion to
Yes.
allow
Not in a
them
motion
to
to give-
negotiate.
I make the motion. I do make the motion.
I move my motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I would like to make a motion for you to go back and come back to us in next council meeting, and so that we can make a decision.
I second that.
Can we still, through the mayor, can we direct staff to give us a legal opinion as to what our rights are if we do not want to keep this fill? We have a contract. We have something that says if it's contaminated according to law. Can we have a definition on that? Because, I mean, there's a variance. So is it now lawful because we've gotten a variance? I'd like we need some definition and some guidance there also, please.
I can explore that with you as well, but just for the record, a variance does not change the nature of a violation. A variance allows the violation to continue. So the nature of the action, right, it remains the same. And so both sections of the county code have clearly been violated, and so that alone is a default under the lease.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's when the motion. Okay.
Okay, the motion is simply to bring this item back the next council meeting.
No, to allow the city manager and the city attorney to come up with a resolution based on negotiation with the developer.
Exactly.
and come and make a proposition to the council.
Okay.
Beautiful.
And make sure that we put the people's first.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the motion as stated on the record. Councilwoman Steril,
Yes.
Mayor Thundro,
Yes.
Councilwoman Keys,
Yes.
Councilman Bieneme,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Galvin.
I'd like the soil immediately removed, so no.
Item passes 4-1. Tab
And
K.
okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Tab K,
But-
discussion regarding
No,
backflow.
excuse me, sorry. And before we go on the backflow device, and city manager, I want you to make it clear for everybody that are here tonight or are listening on or watching us on TV that you was not about to negotiate some kind of deal under the table with Mr. Swedlow. He was an open talking, negotiation, and after that, bring it to the council. And we need to make it clear because the way Mr. Swedlow and pursue it, it looked like we were doing some kind of deal with him under the table.
Again, Councilman, I am very disappointed. Our conversations was based upon the system, the load of the system, and I apologize to Councilman Galvin because I should have met with him, but because I took the developer's word that he spoke to it, I'll address that myself in ensuring that. But I'm very disappointed the way that he projected my
Is the site
rationalization.
is the site closed now, or it's
No,
it's-
the site is still open. The work is stopped, but you're absolutely right. The
do
developer.
we have do we still have Mr. Joe Celestin as the site manager on the site right now?
He's there month to month at this time
And why is that?
because his contract is
Expired?
well, yeah, it's up for rebid. Unless this council wants me to.
He
do
was the
something different.
contract for what was
He
the
has
contract?
a contract for 3 years, but basically because it's a new mayor and
Every
council,
year you got
I have to renew it. But because there's a new council, I
You
wanted
would
to
think.
put out all bids back
Okay.
out again.
But you
Okay.
didn't have to, though.
And
No, I didn't have to.
and in that case, I don't know, and if I can make a motion to ask the city manager and the city attorney to.
Mr. Bieneme, this
Hmm?
is not on the agenda. Now you're going overboard. We
We
need to
can-
finish with the last tab so we can move on. You need to discuss this. We can bring it to the agenda next council meeting.
Okay.
Or you and the city manager can discuss whatever you want to discuss. But we need to move on with the meeting. We cannot just putting things that were not in the agenda.
I have a question, Madam Mayor, may I? If you allow me.
We need to move on to tab K,
I
Madam.
understand that. May I have a question?
Question. Regarding
Right?
tab K?
No, ma'am.
No, tab G.
Go ahead.
Well, I can wait for my report. I'll ask the question in the report.
Okay.
Tab K.
Bieneme should have done.
Sorry.
Mr. Clerk.
Tab K, discussion regarding backflow prevention program.
And from my standpoint, since I'm the person who asked that this be on the agenda, this can be a quick discussion. I'd just like to know what happened with the backflow contract that was signed a year ago, the bid that we put out and then rejected, and the violation notices that residents are getting slapped on their backflow devices by a private plumbing company. But just short, I don't want to belabor the night.
Okay,
But you could have put this in your council report.
It's on the agenda.
When I asked for this report, things were vastly different than where they are tonight. So because there's been so much activity in the week or so since I asked that this be put on here, I think we can summarize it and be able to move on. If we were where we were at 10 days ago, there'd be a lot more explaining needed, but I think things have moved significantly. And those
You didn't meet with the city manager regarding this?
repeatedly. We can
And-
be real short, summary. I just would like explained because people in the community are getting violation notices slapped on their meters, their backflow devices. They're getting letters from a private company that's using the city's letterhead and logo. They think it's the city, and they're complaining to me. So.
See what?
Yeah, I want to hear about that.
We have,
too.
we have
But
residents that
we
have
can be here all
complied.
night long if you want to. So short or long, whichever
Yeah.
way you want to do it.
Well,
There's a lot of interesting things going on with backflow devices, which is why I asked it to be on the agenda. Since then, we've dismissed the company that we didn't really have a contract with. We've sent it. We've start.
Do we have a contract?
Sure.
But
I will let this. All right, here we go. Approximately a year and 2 months ago, city staff, not the city manager, signed a contract with a private company to oversee a backflow installation process.
Can they do that?
I will let the manager ask that.
Okay.
That contract was not signed by the manager. It was signed by somebody in the city attorney's office, but not the city attorney.
Oh.
It did not it did not stipulate any payments to the city. It did not stipulate any length. And in the meantime, this company had begun mailing notices to our residents using the city's logo and letter, sort of looked like the letterhead, saying that they had till X date to install backflow device. People were, some of them paid and had the backflow device installed or upgraded. Others didn't know what to do with it. Then as this deadline got nearer, a private plumbing company started slapping notices on people's backflow devices, bright yellow. I can pull up the picture that somebody had emailed me. When this all hit the fan for me approximately 2 weeks ago, I contacted the manager. He has since contacted that company and canceled their contract because it needed to have been put out to bid. So that's where I was. So when I asked for this, there was still a contract. There was still all this confusion with residents. It's starting to get some focus and be able to be done now, but it's still on the agenda, so if there can be a short presentation.
I want to hear it all.
Okay.
I'm lost.
Because when I start here in June, and the backflow device was one of the items where staff were saying we don't have, we need a company, we need to find a way and to take care of that backflow device. And I remember I was even talking to the city attorney to draft a resolution and bring it to council. Then I never heard anything about it until now. And you guys talking about a company that's out there, and
a year ago.
Can I have some information about it, please?
We didn't have a company on it.
We did. It was
Are you guys going to let the city manager answer it, or you guys want to try to figure it out?
No, because
yourself?
I remember when we had that discussion, it was a question to
Of
find.
$100
They've been on
or
our website for several months.
You know
Yeah.
what? Come on, guys.
According to us, nobody got the contract.
I'm
There's
glad
no
to let
contract
the
with
manager
it.
answer, but in August, I'll pull up the contract on my computer here. In August of 2012, the City of North Miami staff did sign a contract with Aqua Backflow for this service.
Are you guys afraid to hear the truth? Let the man tell us the
I
truth.
now
What's going
defer to the
on?
manager and shut up.
I want to know what's happening.
When the council asked me to come up with a proposal for the backflow devices, one of the recommendations that if we could do it internally, that would be the priority, and to come back with a proposal. I started to look at that option and determine that we will be putting on the next council agenda that we're going to be proposing that we do it in-house. I learned that a contract was signed by staff. I was a little disappointed the staff signed a contract when it was supposed to be my responsibility. I started to dig further. Staff had indicated that Councilman, based upon an email that you asked them to look into this company, they interpreted.
I didn't do that, though, if we want to talk about
What happened?
Well,
Explain.
I want to hear that.
Explain.
Yeah, I want to hear it, too.
I want to hear
I
that.
got the email right here.
Okay.
What happened was a year or more ago, a company emailed you and every sitting member of the city council at that point to introduce themselves as a company that provides backflow services. They're called Aqua Backflow. I got the email. Every member of council and management was too. I just forwarded the email to staff and told that person, this is a decision that is made at the staff level, not at the council level. Thank you for introducing yourself.
Sure.
How staff then wanted to interpret that wasn't my call. That wasn't apparently your call. So I'm not letting anybody throw this down on me that I somehow directed them to go sign this contract.
I'm not-
That
I'm
is-
certainly
Where's
not
the
in-
email?
Okay.
Where's the email? Seriously. No, but this is something that
I
we
can
can't.
provide the email.
Yeah.
The-
Can we have a copy? Can I have a copy of the email? Because
Sure.
we cannot, and you guys, you know
Sure.
that I am very big on not create a precedent. So if I don't like it for me, if I don't want it for me, I don't want it for any one of us up here. So if there's an email going around, or if it was me, if a company is sending an email to me telling me that I am interested to have a contract, and I send it to not the city manager, or if I send it to a staff, and that staff actually signed a contract with that company without your knowledge or the city attorney, this is serious business. Miami Herald will be blasted. The Ethics Commission will be after me. The state attorney's office will be after me by now. So if something like that happening, and if it was not for Scott bringing the discussion, I would never know about it. This is serious.
Yes. I can tell you that I did read Councilman Galvin's email that he did send to staff.
I sent it to you.
No, Councilman.
Oh, I'm pulling it up right now as quick as
I
I find
understand. It got to my public
What is
works
the email
director.
said?
It went from, I don't email staff at the general level directly almost ever, maybe a constituent or something. I just simply forwarded what was an innocuous email to staff and said, this isn't me to decide, this is staff to decide. Thank you very much. That's all I did.
And staff, in return, interpreted that they were to enter into a contract. I'm not saying that you did something wrong. I'm simply saying that when they got your email,
What the email said?
it said to look at this. This is not my decision. This is staff's decision. Something to that
And
effect.
that staff actually signed a contract
Right.
with-
And one of the things that
with that same company.
one of the things that the Ethics Commission always stresses, and I always ask, is that if you have to deal with staff, send it to me. Don't CC staff, because at that point in time, staff would do something like this. I did speak to staff. I was a little disappointed, and they interpreted that email
As what?
as to enter into a contract.
When?
They did it earlier, sometimes this year, when the email, shortly after the email was
But that's
forwarded.
confusing.
That
isn't
is
it?
before we come in.
This was
in office.
before
your
you
time.
recommended, and I did not know until after I started to inquire based upon your direction to see if this could be done in-house or outside. That's when I learned we had a contract. The issue is that I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong. I'm just saying that the caution is that if it had gone through my office, then I would have interpreted correctly. But when it goes to staff, as the Ethics Commission has already indicated on other cases here in the city, whenever we make a direct or indirectly, staff is going to interpret it and can interpret it that they have to do something.
So what's the problem is right now? That
The
company has
problem
not been
is
getting
that
paid?
That company, I feel uncomfortable in using that company. When I learned about it, I went into cancellation mode because it was never brought before this council to officially make the decision. I dealt with staff administratively, but the only thing that I can request of council is that if you get anything, send it to me so that staff doesn't interpret it, although it's...
Can somebody
No, but
please
that's-
give me
but that's not the
access to
question
my email
now.
so I can access my email?
Council,
question-
you may have sent it to me, but it was CC to staff. So once it was CC to staff, they got it, I got it, I did nothing about it, staff did. That's the concern here.
Okay, but,
Sure
but
you-
please don't make
sure-
it sound like, and I'm not going to be
I'm
able
not-
to,
I'm not
to
saying
joust
that-
with you on this one because I can't access it.
Okay.
But please don't make it seem like I somehow bypassed
You
the
did
upper
not
management and
bypass
went
me,
somewhere
you
below.
sent it to me and you sent it to staff.
But you got it, right?
I got it. And I did nothing about it because it was for me to do nothing
And
about
staff
it.
didn't.
But staff interpreted.
Bring it to your
I
attention.
interpreted.
Get this
Okay,
right.
I'll look
This is
into
what
it.
can I access?
Staff interpreted. Let me go do a contract.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
I
issue.
understand that even and they got the email also, but they
Sure.
cannot go inside contract.
Absolutely, they cannot go. No staff can sign a contract. Only the city manager can enter into a contract on behalf of the
So
city.
what you're looking for right
So
now?
even if I had sent something that said sign this contract right now, which I didn't in any way, shape, or form, but even if I had, everybody out there in staff level needs to know, council doesn't direct people to sign contracts. You do that.
Councilman, and they
why,
do know
why,
that.
why would you send a copy of this to staff?
Because it was some random vendor writing to me and to the rest of the council. I answer every email I get, one way or the other. So this dude wrote to the council and the staff and said, I do backflow. Would you be interested? I see you're considering this. And I wrote back saying, I see you've copied the manager on this. That is the right thing to do because this is decided at the staff level, not the council level. Thank you. That's all I did. Come to be a year and a half later, I found out we went and signed a contract with them. So,
Mr. Manager, what is the procedure?
Can I have the email,
when
Mr.
it comes to Mr. Manager?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the procedure when it comes to sign contracts with? Is staff allowed to sign contracts with a company?
No.
So how in the world did the staff had the impression that it's okay for her or he to do that?
The issue is like it's been ruled on other cases here. It is the Ethics Commission's recommendation that when something comes to when it comes to staff, the contact be made by the manager.
Is it a
and
comment
not by-
or it's illegal? It's a recommendation from
it's- well-
86 or there is a law that's specified that?
Yeah, your charter prohibits you from directing staff
Okay.
to do anything. You can inquire, but the only two people that you can direct is
No,
the
if
manager
if
and
they
the city
send you
attorney.
an email, can you forward it to the city manager,
city
and
manager
staff
and the city
all
attorney.
the departments? Not just ask him to do something, but forward the email to
For
them.
informational
Yeah.
purposes,
I
you
have
can-
the
you
email.
Okay.
It says, and this is from Mr. Galvin.
is this the one
This is
April
to
9th, 2012?
April 17th.
But we need to go back to April 9th when Mr. Starowsk's original inquiry came to all of us. And I'll note right
Sure.
here, it was sent to Mr. Johnson, Mayor Pierre, myself, Councilman Blinn, Councilman Marcellus, Councilwoman Sterl, Mr. Gainey, and P. Conti, which is a name that's slipping my mind. That was April 9th. And it just said, I see you're looking into this. Are you interested in our services? I wrote back verbatim, copying everybody who was copied on the original email. Hi, Tom. Thanks for the compliment. I see you've copied all the right people on your email. Hopefully Mr. Johnson and or Mr. Gainey will have time to follow up with you soon.
That's correct.
That's
And-
not in any way, shape, or form directing staff to do anything. Please,
Councilman,
I'm
you-
spending way too much time talking about me
You did
responding
not,
to an
you
email.
did not direct staff to do anything.
Okay, that's what it needs to be clear.
Yes,
'cause
you did not. You said, hi, Tom, thanks again. The correct procedure would be for you to make your presentation to city staff. They're the ones empowered with the decision-making ability in this matter. I've copied the city manager and the public works director, Mr. Ghani, on this email so that they may follow up. That's what you indicated. Here's my issue. Here's what the Ethics Commission is saying. Councilwoman Sterl asked staff to, here's an applicant. She came to my office. I want you to see what she needs. The Ethics Commission said that based upon Councilwoman Sterl making contact with staff to just see what you can do about this individual, led staff to go above and beyond what the call of duty. That's what the Ethics Commission ruled. In this situation, you innocently, like Councilwoman Sterl, made a presentation. And their
I just didn't
decision is,
reply all, though.
you did, but when you do that, the same rule applies, the same
So your
conclusion.
staff doesn't realize they can't enter into contracts? This should not be about me or Councilwoman Sterl. It should be about the fact that your
But
staff
Councilman,
entered
we-
into a contract
we made
without
it
a
about
bid.
Councilwoman Sterl when we went to the Ethics Commission that she was forced, that staff had to do something.
That has-
and they ruled it's the same conclusion.
So you don't think that there's any room tonight to be having a discussion about your staff signing a contract without a bid?
I am very disappointed with staff. I think that your email was innocent. I think like Councilwoman's inquiry was to send over an applicant was innocent. And I think staff overstep themselves. So therefore, the Ethics Commission says to avoid that, send it to the manager, not to the manager and staff.
Okay, I sent it
And
to the
you
manager, and you're already
innocently-
telling me you didn't do anything with it.
I didn't
So
do anything, Councilman, because there was another similar item that I presented that you all did not, it was not the spirit of what you wanted to do.
That was this summer with this council. What we're talking about originally was April 2012.
I understand, Council,
So
but
in
if you
April
remember,
2012, there was
if you
nothing in front of
remember
us.
last year, I presented a company that I wanted to provide insurance. It's not the spirit of this council to have anybody acting on behalf of the city. And once I knew what the company was about, I never presented to you because I know the spirit that this council is not in favor of anybody doing anything on behalf of this city, even though it doesn't cost us money. So I didn't do anything with it. I get these calls every day. I deal with people every day wanting to represent the city. And the answer is I either will ignore them or tell them no, because...
Might I advise ignoring is not a good thing, because here we are tonight.
Councilman, this is a vendor seeking an opportunity to make money and doing business on behalf of the city. There's millions of them out there, and I don't have time to respond to all of them in a day. I've got emails from them. Most of them I sent to junk mail. The issue of this situation is, did you do anything wrong? No. Did Councilwoman Searle do anything wrong? No. The issue is that when you send it to me and staff, staff will interpret it to do something above and beyond the call
But
of
they
duty.
should not. We've had
Absolutely.
enough ethics trainings and presentations
Absolutely.
that they should not be doing that.
Absolutely. But the Ethics Commission's ruling and finding was they will. So therefore, you should go through the manager. Did you do anything wrong? No. Councilwoman Stroh do anything wrong? No. But the issue is that business has to be done by the city manager. It has to go through the city manager. And I'm very disappointed that staff misinterpreted Councilwoman Stroh's intent. And I'm even more disappointed in light of that situation that they misinterpreted yours. How many times do we have to go through this? And you're asking me, we're getting rid of all of our senior staff that's so great and so good? If I can clean house, I've got people who are more competent in certain positions that would do a better job. And we're worried about losing some knowledge. Well, I can tell you that cleaning up that I've been doing in this city, that I don't need to bring to your attention because it's my responsibility to do with the day-to-day situation, from catching people that's been stealing that's been in this city for 20 years. I don't want to go down that road. I have saved this city some embarrassment. And can we stand to lose some people? I wish we could. And this is the opportunity to do so. And I can tell you, we can put a better staff in here that I don't have to continue to deal with this where people are doing things and misinterpret. I'm very disappointed that they misinterpreted your well-intent email. But how often do we have to go through
This
that?
has gone so far off track. This is where
so
your short presentation
what
could
do
have
we-
simply
All right,
been
now
letting us know where we stand with this process.
The company has been kicked out. I will be presenting before this council that we do it in-house.
I agree.
And I didn't go down that road, didn't want to go down that road, but at the same time, it was asked, how do we get here? And that's how we got here. And I can tell you, I'm very disappointed, and I dealt with it administratively.
Okay.
Move forward.
Should somebody move for this work to be done in-house?
I'll
No,
let the
we
city
haven't,
manager take care of that and bring back
To your discretion, Mr. City Manager. We'll leave it to Mr. City Manager's discretion.
Yes. Bring back
Very well. Okay.
updates.
Now let's move on. Updates. Council report. Madam Keys.
Quickly, November 10th, Sunday night, the night before Veterans Day, the Chamber of Commerce is having Flavors of North Miami. It's going to be at Mocha Plaza from 5 to 8 o'clock. in the evening, and we're going to have local restaurants and other libations. So I hope everybody will come out. There's no cost. It's going to be a good event.
Free
and I
food?
believe the, pardon me?
Free food?
Free food.
I'm not sure if it's going to be free food.
Can you have a party without food?
Could you invite people to a party to taste the food without, for us to pay?
It may because the sponsors are paying. I don't know.
Okay.
But also the merchants, we've got the merchants on 125th Street. We're hoping they will stay open that evening, showcase their stores. So anyway, please come out. There's information online. I don't know what the charge is. Real quickly, since we went so long, everybody is gone. I am collecting for UNICEF on behalf of our North Miami High Key Club. I'm the Kiwanis sponsor for our North Miami High Key Club, and collecting. Thank you.
All right. Council Vice Mayor Galvin.
None other than to wish everybody, it's my favorite holiday of the year, happy Halloween.
All right. Councilman Bien-Aimé, now you can bring your item.
And Mr. City Manager, and I was talking about, when I was talking about Biscayne Landing, and I was asking you about Mr. Joe Celestine contract, and you were saying something.
Just make a motion. I'm tired.
It's a 3 years contract, right?
It's, yeah, Councilman, I put out everybody's contract out because although it may have a...
Because we have a new government.
Because you have a new government. So to be consistent, I put that contract back.
Can I make a motion to ask the city manager and the city attorney to renew the Mr. Joe Celestine contract?
No, that's not advertised. You're talking a $300,000 contract.
Okay.
This is not the time.
I second your motion for discussion because I have
second. Okay. Second for discussion.
I'm waiting for the mayor to allow me to speak.
You've been speaking. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. From what I understand, we had a contract with Mr. Celestine for, again, I'm sending kisses. Oh, he left. But I'm still sending kisses to him.
In the air.
Yeah, in the air. I seriously, I think that he has been doing a good job. I know that the Olita partners probably hate his guts right now because without him, we wouldn't be where we're at right now with them understanding everything that's going on. He has been as bad as he is, which he is sometimes, that he can, tell you things that you don't even care to know, but he's a great speaker and he has been doing a good job. I really would feel bad knowing that I would be feeling bad knowing that
I don't think we can discuss it right
she has the floor, Mr. Galvin. Can you wait until
have
she finishes?
somebody else on the side just because of politicking business. But however, I know Mr. Celestine had a contract for 3 years, as everybody else that we have, but we know every year. Is that true?
Yes.
So
this would be the second year.
The second year. So we wouldn't even need to send it out for bid until on his third year.
That's correct.
Okay. So right now, even if we go and renewed his contract until the third year come for us to send it out back to bid, that wouldn't be illegal, Madam City Attorney.
You would have to, we would have to pull the bid.
Okay,
You have
so
to put it out?
pull the bid.
Pull
The
the
bid.
bid.
So what you're telling me now, we would have to make a motion to cancel the bid, and what is it? That would be 2 motion or 1 motion?
So you would have to cancel the bid, and then you would have to make a motion to renew his contract, and then we would bring that to you through a resolution on the next meeting.
I'm not sure
we
that
don't
we would
need a
have to bring
resolution.
it because he has a 3-year contract to be renewed annually. So we could
But
still leave the same contract and let it
Correct.
be renewed annually
And
if
then
that's...
The
if-
third year, you bring it back to us.
And I don't
then-
know. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I believe we gave him a month-to-month contract.
Because we never renew it.
And that's what you stated earlier in the meeting, that
Yes.
it was now under a month-to-month.
Because it's never
How
renewed.
about we take 2 weeks, let you study it, and
Okay,
bring
can
it
we
back on the agenda?
I make a motion to cancel to pull the bid?
Okay.
I second that. If that's the legal way to go about doing
Yes.
so.
Okay.
He has a month-to-month contract.
Why
now.
do we have to pull the bid if we
So
have
if
2 weeks
you-
to discuss it?
That's a motion that I make to cancel the bid, to pull it. And
I
I
second it.
think Vice Councilwoman Sterrill and seconded.
Discussion?
Yeah, I don't, it's 12 o'clock. I think this is highly irregular to be talking about renewing bids, renewing contracts, a contract that costs the city $175,000, something that could be done in-house. We could save money. I think there's a lot of discussion involved here. This is not the time. I mean, I could name a little tiny street because it was an add-on. This is not the time to start renewing a $300,000 contract.
We're not renewing a contract. We're just pulling the bid for we can discuss it next council meeting.
But why do we have to pull the bid? We're in the middle of a bid. If we decide we don't want to renew it, then we've stopped the bid.
That's it.
Why can't we wait till in 2
That's
weeks
a
and
move.
discuss it and stop the bid and it's part of discussion? 12 o'clock at midnight. This is shades of the old council. I
Well,
don't-
it's okay. There's
this
a
is lack
motion.
of transparency.
Madam
Yes.
Keys, there's a motion on the floor that has been
That's my
seconded.
discussion.
Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Keys.
No.
Now, granted, just to clarify, this is a motion to cancel the bid. That's what I
No.
have here.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cancel. Councilman Galvin,
No.
Mayor Thundro,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sterrill,
Yes.
and Councilman Bien-Aimé.
Yes.
Measure passes 3-2.
I'll make a motion for the city manager and the city attorney, or whichever, to bring back the contract next council meeting.
I seconded.
That's your motion?
Yes.
To bring the
Roll
contract
call.
back.
Councilwoman Sterrill,
Yes.
Councilwoman Keys,
No.
Councilman Bien-Aimé,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Galvin,
No.
Mayor Thundro.
Yes. We're not done with the report.
Measure
Is
passes
everybody
3-2.
happy?
Done with your report?
Yes. Councilwoman
done.
Sterrill.
Yes.
Okay.
Saturday will be my husband's birthday. Happy birthday, honey.
That's private.
And by the way,
That's private.
hey, it's midnight. What do you mean private? What's private about it? I'm here,
It's midnight.
so I might as well just, start the party early.
Continue with your report, madam.
She's done.
I'm done.
Oh, that's
Madam
it?
Mayor.
Let me
Yeah.
do my own.
Sure.
I would like to, first of all, thank staff for a wonderful surprise birthday party I've got. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I would like also to thank staff for the successful event we had on that Walk the Way. Staff have done a wonderful job on Saturday, and we were able to walk through the music, and it was just wonderful. We are continuing to walk every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Mondays at the North Miami Stadium, Wednesdays at the Cagney Park, and Fridays at the Claude Pepper Park. We're starting at 6 p.m., and we have a challenge of 1 million steps to reach. I know that Saturday I did like 3,000 steps, and yesterday I did 9,000 steps. So it's coming wonderfully, and everybody's invited from 6 to 9. Request for what? We have
Finish
not
your-
seen you
your
walking.
report.
We're inviting staff
I am
to come in.
coming, but can you change the schedule for?
Why?
Can you please talk? From Club, I would love to come to my district as well to accompany you.
It's
but
Friday.
It's Friday.
It's on
evening.
Friday. Well,
Can you change it from Friday?
You are allowed to do good
No,
thing on
sundown, you
Sabbath.
can do that.
Why you so?
Sundown, it doesn't
It's
start
good
until
thing.
8 p.m.
You
so
can
you
say
can
good
walk
thing
from
on
6 to
Sabbath.
7.
We'll change pretty soon.
It's okay.
Can
We-
you take this into consideration?
We can do good
And
thing
then
on Sabbath.
I would like to encourage staff to continue to walk. It is for your health. And I'm inviting you and the people that are looking at home to the Garden of Hope. We are dedicating it in honor of the closing month of breast cancer and domestic violence awareness month. It will be Saturday, November 2nd at 11 a.m. at the Griffin Center, 12220 Griffin Boulevard. Those of you who have had your loved one, family member, or you have survived domestic violence and breast cancer, please come and let's plant together, and we're going to make a wonderful garden on this thing. For those who, they're talking about the donation of $10 will benefit the lodge domestic violence awareness nonprofit organization. So you can call Katia or Stephanie if you want to have more information.
I pledged $10.
Okay, only 10?
The councilman pledged 20.
There we go. And those are the things that I believe we need to continue to do in the city. It brings this community together. It was wonderful. For example, on Saturday, we saw that one of our residents with his walker walking the way, and it was so wonderful and touching. And those are the special moments I think we need to share as elected officials, but also as responsible citizens that needs to bring that community forward. And this complete my report. And again, thank you, staff. Madam.
Motion to adjourn.
Quickly, Madam Mayor, I would like
Oh, tomorrow at noon, North Miami Country Club will be my first.
Miami Shores.
Not Miami Shores. Well, we're gonna have our own soon.
Miami Shores.
We're gonna have our own soon.
Not Miami
Wait, when we're done with the capital improvement.
In this week,
North Miami Shores Country Club. We're going to have the State of the City address. That will be my first, and I'm inviting all of you to come. And I would like for staff and council member to come and support me in this. I know some of you would like to be in court, but we're going to be at Miami Shores Country Club and listening to good things that are coming up in the city and the vision that we have for the city. You are invited, $25 for those. Those who wants to be.
Make me pay after you just invited me to come to something?
I'm inviting you. I'll pay for you.
No, I'll pay.
I would love to have your support, council members and staff as well, at that wonderful event tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you. That's it. Madam.
No report,
City,
Mayor.
Mr. Clerk, no report?
No.
Madam City Attorney?
Not tonight.
Oh, Mr. Manager?
I can't say not tonight. I am just so very disappointed that, and I again apologize to Councilman Galvin that I took Michael Swerdlow's word that he discussed what the terms were and twisted. I'm so disappointed that he did that, and I now understand how the Oaks feels, and I'm going to be looking at that situation very closely. I just want to express that disappointment. To insinuate that I'm trying to extort money.
Don't lose your sleep on this, please.
I normally don't, but when I'm accused of being a thief, that really bothers me.
I hear you.
Madam Mayor, 1 minute. I just want to say thank you to our governmental affairs, Natasha, for secured Mr. Suplis for the Creole International Month. And thank you, Oscar, for coming. Although that it was in Creole, it seemed like you enjoyed.
He went?
I know he. Yes, he surely
Are you
did.
kidding?
He went.
I saw him the other day.
Yeah, he
for the
went.
first time since I've been elected. In that thing that Commissioner Sorensen was doing.
He usually come out for community event though. He does. So that was a nice event, and the community really come out for it. And again, thank you, staff, for helping. Too. Yes, he will. He usually come out sometimes.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
By the way, sometimes.
Do I hear when he wants to? Do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? That'll teach you.
Oh my God, Dr. Glad, thank you so much. It always happens.